heroes, villains, and innocent bystanders. Welcome to another episode of An Angel and a Unicorn comic book reviews. I'm Alan the Unicorn, and with me always is the beautiful, lovely angel, Jenny. I will be doing a solo show because I was in New York, and I did all the things in New York. It was an amazing trip. If anybody ever gets a chance to go, and they have not, go. Do a city pass. It is amazing. You can do all the things, see all the things. It's an amazing place. Lots of people. But I wasn't able to, unfortunately, with time, trying to get all the things done to see all the things, I was not able to record a show, so I'm going to do a show now, and then I'm going to record a show later with James for this current week. So I'll post 2 videos. I'll post last week's video, and then I'll post this week's video and get everything caught up. I am currently going through some issues with mics, so I am working on it. I know the sound is not the best on some of the videos, so I am trying to fix that. Unfortunately, budget-wise is kind of keeping a damper on that for just the moment. So hopefully, eventually, I will have enough money to be able to get a new mic that'll work better for my show. And until then, please bear with me, and I appreciate you, all the stuff that you stick with. Thank you. If you can, like, share, and subscribe. Please get more people. We'd love to have more and more of a conversation. And as always, ring the bell notification so that you can be notified of when we do post a video. I also do post on Facebook, so if you would like to join an Angels and Unicorn comic book reviews on Facebook, we have that also. Until then, I'm going to go ahead and just do 3 books this week. Normally I do 4 on a solo show, but I figured I'd give you guys a break and just do the 3, and that way you can not listen to me ramble. I will be spoiling the books for the week, but it's already been 2 weeks, so if you haven't read them, it's your own fault. Like, you should just let me spoil them because you haven't read them yet anyways. So, needless to say, let me get on with it. I'm going to start with Killers #1. It is a Valiant book. The writer is Clay Moore, and the art is Fernando D'Agino. So this is based in the Valiant world, and this is actually has characters that have already been established. I thought it was going to be a brand new book and create different characters that were not established in the Valiant universe, but these characters have been established. They are from kind of the Ninjak series. They are all former killers or assassins of this particular, some of them have been MI6, some of them were a different program, and they kind of explain it a little bit, but some of it was left out. So I do feel like there are more stuff that maybe I could go back and read and fill in some of these blanks, but some of it is a little bit more established, but I didn't feel like I was completely lost with what was going on. So it starts off with this, they're attacking these, people are attacking this, mass people are attacking this lady, and she's kind of defending them off. Eventually they do get the better of her and they kill her. And in comes later is a African-American woman that is, comes in, and she's obviously devastated. This lady was something to her. They make it out to be her lover, I assume, but again, without having that backstory, I'm not quite sure. So she, that was then they kind of cut to another character. He's in Italy, and he's kind of doing his own thing, trying to figure things out, figuring out some of the mystery of whatever the ninja stuff that he's trying to be embroiled in. Cuts back to London, where it is the African-American lady, and she is, she found her former MI6 person, and she's kind of, ask them why they attacked her and all this stuff, and he's like, it wasn't us, it was somebody else, and she's like, why would you do this? They're like, we thought you were dead. So then it cuts back to Italy with the other guy, and he is talking to one of the merchants, and all of a sudden he gets assassinated, and then they start, fights ensue. There's a lot of, I assume there's some kind of magic or ninja mystical stuff. They kind of talk about implants, and I guess there's some kind of mystical mojo of some kind where he does like a symbol, and like he does a prayer and kind of a symbol, and he becomes kind of bulletproof. So as he's killing them, all of a sudden there is a little girl, and she is trying to help him, and he runs away from him. Later it cuts, it's still in Italy, but the African-American lady is there, and she finds this girl who is trying to help her, and they all kind of talk about, they're kind of setting up like who's the bad guy. So the lady, and the meets or gets the man in her in his apartment. Has a sword to his throat. He activates his little magic thing, and his skin becomes hard. She's like, "Oh, that's what your powers are." And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "What did you get?" And she kind of doesn't really say. But then he shoves her. He uses like his hardened skin to shove her out the window, and that's the end of that book. So I'm curious to see if they're going to join in and become like co-conspirating people trying to kill each other, or kill the people, the bad guys, or if they're gonna fight each other, and then like they're gonna have to like, is it like, who's last man standing? Is there gonna be different ones that they fight, and whoever's at the end? I'm not for sure. So I'm kind of excited to see what they're gonna do with this. So it was really kind of a neat book. It was not the premise that I thought they were gonna go with. I thought it was gonna be something a little bit different. I thought it was gonna be. Image did a book called Die, Die, Die with Invincible writer, and the guy that did Walking Dead, and his name escapes me because I'm horrible at this. But he did a book called Die, 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 and it's got like kind of like different assassins, and they all fight, and they fight each other, try to kill each other, and there's the espionage and all this stuff. So I thought it was gonna be more similar to that, and this one seems like it's gonna be more. There's a mysterious group killing other ninja series, the Ninja G and the Ninja K and the Ninja A, B, C, Ds, and but still I liked it. They did well. The pacing worked well. They explained enough that I was like, I didn't feel completely lost. I did feel like there was things that I could have hopefully filled in and got more of, but I didn't feel lost. So I'm definitely gonna pick the second book up and see how that goes. I probably give it a 3 out of 5 unicorn horns, just because I wish I would have known more and not been as. I wish there was more. I wish that they would have set the characters up a little bit better, so that since I didn't know them, I would have liked to know what they are without the quick explanations. So, all in all, though, I really enjoyed it. I thought they did really good on that. Let's see. This next book I'm going to do Flip. So this one is, let's see. Let me get to the end, and we will tell the writers. This one is done by Marcosia Comics. I guess it's a independent group, I assume. Written by Derek Kunskin, and art is by Miguel George and Trevor Markwart. And the publisher is AAM Marcosia. No idea. Never heard of these people. I just happened to find it on Comixology. I can see why I haven't heard of these people, because this is the oddest book that I've read in a long time. Although I think my next show with James, I'll probably destroy a couple books. But this one probably took the cake, because it is the weirdest premise, and I'm not for sure why this even made it into print, because I just don't understand. The art is not very good, unfortunately. It is very amateurish. The story is not there. The characters are not there. There are characters in there, but I don't know what. They're all Frankenstein creatures, and apparently it's a forbidden thing to sew or make Frankenstein animals, but they can make Frankenstein people. And the whole book, the girl just wants a puppy, but there's a reason they can't make a puppy. So the dad goes, and there's like different parts where they're trying to figure out how to make a puppy, and they make different creatures, and it's just I don't say it often, but I was really I really wish I could have got that time back that I read. I actually wish I could get this time back to review this book, because it was atrocious. The art was horrible, the premise was horrible, the characters were horrible, the the colors were muted and washed out. I don't ever read this book. Don't waste your time. I mean, if you do, go for it. I'm glad you want to attempt it, but I don't. This was sad. It gets 0 out of 5 unicorn horns for me. I hope it finds a market. I always hope that people can do well in their craft and in their job. But unfortunately, this was. I don't understand why you would make this book ever. Let's go on to something I did enjoy. Manor Black by Dark Horse Comics. It was written by Colin Bunn, Brian Hurt, and the art was by Tyler Crook. So this is kind of a demonology, mystic, ghost sort of story. It starts off with characters in a van, and they're trying to escape something, and then all of a sudden, while they're trying to escape, some kind of creature appears in front of them, a humanoid creature, and they crash. When they crash, they just show the van at the bottom of the thing, and then it cuts to a manor, a big giant mansion, where there's apparently a son and a father, and the father is going down where he finds this giant hourglass of blood, and he kind of talks about how that's like they talk about how that's how much time he has left. I guess he's been alive for a long time, but the blood's running out, so he has to pick a successor. And so he has conversations with ghosts and dead relatives and other people about who the successor should be. And then it cuts to the cops where they find the van, and it's the sheriff, and they are talking about how perfectly there's a burn mark around the van, how perfect it is. And he's like, hasn't the fire investigator been here? He's like, there's no fire investigator because we live in this small town. He's like, well, what about forensics? And he's like, we live in a small town. We don't have that kind of stuff either. So it is what you see. And he's kind of like, well, how do you do my job? How am I going to do my job? So then it cuts back to the manor where they are talking to the older guys, talking to the son and the daughter. And the son's like, you just name me the successor. And he goes, I'm not ready. And he goes, why don't you just do it? Why don't you just name me? And he's like, I can't. So cuts back to the sheriff where he's trying to figure out what's going on, and all of a sudden he bursts into flames and burns part of the police precinct down as he just bursts into flames. Cuts back to the forest where there is it looks like one of the characters from the van that crashed earlier is running through the forest, and all of a sudden he gets whipped up in this whirlwind and lands on the ground, and these creatures come out of the forest. One looks like it's made out of wood, one looks like a mummy. And they are threatening him, and he's like on the border of the manor of the mansion. The old man is there that was looking at the hourglass earlier, which I assume he's some kind of mystic or wizard is what it kind of makes him out to be. And he goes, nobody can harm anybody within the borders of this manor. But the boy is just on the other side of the wall, so he like pushes his hand and the wall moves out, and so it creates another border. And so when he does that, the element or those creatures' powers kind of leave them, and the boy drops, and so he kind of saves the boy, and the elementals leave and threaten him, and as he's getting ready to hold the boy's hand, blood comes out of his hand, and him and the boy kind of touch hands. So I think he is going to inherit the manor, the Black Manor, and see if he's probably going to become the next wizard or mystic or whatever it is that they do. So, I've talked about it a couple times, and I think possibly, this is actually a really good number one. They set up the characters, there was a little bit of action, they kind of set up this mystery that you still want to know enough, but they don't let you hang. There's certain writers that I will talk about later, or in the other show I do with James, that don't quite finish their stories or give you enough information on their stories. This one was actually a really good number one. They had the art was decent, a little dark, but I think it kind of fit the tone of the book. It's definitely like a more spooky horror kind of feel. But I wish they had a little bit more clear filter on some of the art, because the art was very sketchy in some places. So some of it got a little bit difficult to understand, like the faces or the structures weren't quite as well defined that I could see. So that kind of took you out of it just a smidge. But actually a really great number one. I really enjoyed it. 4 out of 5 unicorn horns. Especially I was considering it's not kind of my genre of things that I like. I definitely like the female power, the superpowers, the hero, the team books, magical books, stuff like that. But this is definitely more of a horror with a mystic element to it, so I'm kind of curious to see where they're going to go with it. Are they going to go with more of a horror theme? Are they going to go with a more mystical theme? Are they going to kind of find something in between? But I look forward to seeing read number 2. If you get a chance, I definitely think it'd be a good read for several genres of people, whether it be horror or thrillers or magic books or mysteries. Along those lines, would be kind of an interesting audience. So that's the ones that I'm going to review. I'm going to go quickly through my really quick my pull list that I read. Other words. Let's see. I read Punchline. I want this to be really good, and sometimes the art's really good, but it's really not. Sadly, I get a little confused. I'm not quite sure what the story's about. It's really odd. I wish it was better than what it is, unfortunately. Because I think it could be a really good book, but I think the story is really convoluted and confusing, but it shouldn't be, or maybe I'm just not smart enough to read it. That's a total possibility also. But I still keep picking it out for some reason. Like, I really want it to be good. And the art is decent in most panels. Sometimes it's really, really good, and they got these really cool splash pages and stuff like that, but then sometimes, like, the smaller panels, they lose some of the stuff, and they kind of look weird, like their legs look really thin or awkward or weird pose. So I wish it would have a little bit more consistency to it. And sometimes I can't tell the main character from her mentor. Like, they get a little confusing. They kind of have a similar haircut and kind of a similar look, and so I get a little confused with that stuff. But it's okay. 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. I'll probably continue to pick it up for some reason. Strong female character. I read this Tessa thesis. I didn't get it. The art is really awkward. The women all have these giant chests, and it just, I don't get it. I assume it's supposed to be more of a adult theme comic. It's 0 out of 5 unicorn horns for me, sadly. Battle Cats, Volume 2, Number 3. I'm still trying to play catch up on this, and I feel like I want to give it up because I don't understand it, but then sometimes there's like little things in there that I think are fun. It's just interesting premise, I guess, but sometimes the characters, there's so many characters, I don't know who they are, and so I get them confused because I didn't read Volume 1, so if I read Volume 1, maybe they would be more established with me, but right now it's kind of confusing, so I want to give it up, but then I don't know why I keep buying it, because I just want to, hopefully it'll kick in. But I don't know, 2 out of 5 unicorn horns, because the art is really nice, and I feel like if I had more background, I actually might enjoy it, and the premise would be really good, but it just isn't there for me right now. Ancestors, number 2, definitely felt like a number 2, because I'm not quite sure what was happening. The men were wanting to leave, and the women were not wanting to leave. It kind of set in like Scandinavian, Norse kind of stuff. And the women are there to there's a goddess, and they are the old woman is like, the goddess has said we need to stay, and the men are like, we're dying, all the food's gone, we have to move, and there's a conflicting kind of conflict between there. The old woman kind of gives like a little speech, and then they end up moving on, so they leave. And then the goddess kind of follows them. I don't know if this is... I actually don't care enough to want to know more. It was okay. I don't even know what... Again, it's number 2. I didn't read number 1, so that may have been a little bit of a conflict. But as of right now, I don't think I want to read number 1 or number 2 or number 3. It was just okay. It wasn't that good. So I'd probably say 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, it just continues her story on about she's trying to battle this stuff. She actually ends up getting all these magical artifacts and putting them together, so she has this magical armor to help. She's going to go find her aunts, because her aunts are missing. Art's really cute. The story's really cute. There's nothing really heavy about it, but it is kind of interesting. I like this kind of take on it. I really, really liked the old take, or the take they did before, where there was kind of like this demonics, very similar to what the Netflix show was. Like, there's like a more dark and demented and twisted version of them in Sabrina's life, and I like that. I thought that was really good. I wish they would have finished it. They did not, but I wish they would have finished that and then did this. But I'm still longing for that to finish, and so this one is kind of a hard sell for me, but I still really like it. Like, I kind of like what they did with it. Maybe if they would have done a different character, and this could have been, I don't know. I like it, but it doesn't sit right with me, unfortunately, because of the lingering stuff that they've had. Like, it's almost like having a great thing and then you kind of make an okay thing, but it's still so. I think it definitely lends itself to a different audience, though. Too, it definitely lends itself, I think, younger people. The more anime female audience, I think, would like it. The magical girl audience would be really like it. So that it's not quite the Archie Sabrina, but it is kind of closer to that. So more family friendly Sabrina, but they still have like a little bit of the magic side. So I think it's fun. 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. Knight's temporal. This guy is a knight. He apparently lives forever, so he's in the real world hunting people and sorcerers, and he has this magical creature that's with him that's kind of goading him on to do these things. But they kind of alluded to she's kind of bad, so they kind of put her in. It's okay. I got a little confused with some of the panels. I can't really tell what's going on with them because they do kind of get a little sketchy. Some of the characters look a lot alike, so that was kind of weird. But I'm not for sure. I don't know if I'll read number 2 or not. But I'm curious to see what people think about this one, because I can maybe see where this would be really good, but I'm not for sure if it would be if it has a strong enough premise to go ongoing. Justice League Dark, the annual. I love Justice League Dark. They're definitely writing the rules. This is more of a story, a Swamp Thing story, where they make the new what is it? The flowers. Oh my goodness, I've lost the word. They're the panel of flowers. They're called something, but they make their own avatar. So Swamp Thing was the green, and the green power, and this is kind of more of the flowers. And they create this guy, but he kind of uses his son died, and his wife left him, so he uses his power to create a creature for his wife, and he creates several creatures for his wife to help her kind of be better, and then she finds out, and it kind of destroys her, and he kind of goes a little insane. And so, but it comes to find out the guy that kind of led him on this path was a Swamp Thing's big bad, and he ended up eating the flower guy to make him to kind of take his power, and then it shows him kind of turning into kind of a bad version of the Swamp Thing. So it's kind of like the woodman and the wood and flower kind of come together and create this avatar. But of course he's evil, so, and then Cersei shows up in her like witchling form, like her powered up form, and so they're gonna create some kind of bad guy. It looks like an anti-Dark Justice League Dark, so it's gonna be the Justice League Dark of Doom, Doom of Dark, Doom Dark, whatever that version would be. I love Justice League Dark. They have been a really strong characters. They have really strong premise, which I was really against for a long time, but I've really jumped on board, and I've liked Justice League Dark even since the old series. I hate when they change the characters, but they've done really well, and they have really hit it off and found their strides with this. And I don't feel like they've got involved a lot with the Justice League stuff that's going on currently in the DC universe. So, which makes me happy because the Justice League is just horrible. They're doing some source wall stuff and it's atrocious. Stranger Things number 3, it's like a little add-on to the show. It's about the 6, instead, like there was L, who's a number 11, and this was 6, and also deals with number 3, and there's twins. And it just delves into the program a little bit more. She's more of a precog, and so she can see the future. The 3, the guy, he has like powers of persuasion, and the twins are pyrokinetic. And then so it's about them like in the lab, and they're gonna try to escape, but hilarity ensues. One of the twins dies, and so on. So it's interesting, but I don't think they quite have established a foothold or a characterization that I think is really great. So it's really just a middle of the road book, just kind of filling in blanks a little bit. But I wish the creators had more to do with this, and I think it could have been better. So it is what it is. It's okay. It's a fun story. So 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. Punk Mambo. There's continue on with the Loa and Punk Mambo trying to find all her stuff. Find the bad guy. She's kind of like regrouping and kind of getting her stuff together and trying to figure out what she wants to do to fight everybody. And she ends up kind of finding her mojo, and they're gonna go and fight the bad guy. So Punk Mambo is an interesting book. I feel like the pacing isn't great. It's either the pacing I feel is definitely not as slow. It's slow in parts and then fast in parts, but the parts that it's slow and fast in are not correct. So they will extend a lot of this other stuff, but then they won't. Then they will shorten the stuff that you actually would probably be more beneficial to know than the parts that they extended. But it's still an okay read. And I wish the art was a little bit better, but still, it's interesting. I enjoy it. 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. Rat Queens. Rat Queens is a book that I actually recently came into contact with, and I've really loved, because the characters are freaking hysterical. They are so flawed and messed up, and I love every minute of it. And the drunk elf, or the drunk troll gnome girl, so funny. Really good book. It's just kind of they get trapped and then they escape, and the person, they go to try to find help from an old friend, and she ends up being, she can't help, and they kind of wrap up some stuff, some other storylines about why she left and all that stuff, and so they kind of give closure to that somewhat, and then they continue on with this new girl that's kind of taking her place and how she's trying to fit into the Rat Queens, and she kind of pulls her weight in this one where they usually don't expect her to pull her weight, and she kind of does this time, and so it's a really interesting book. The art's really interesting, the characters are really interesting, the premise is always funny. It's just really a cute book. 4 out of 5 unicorn horns, definitely. That one's out of the park. Paper Girls, number 30. They finished it. Definitely an odd ending. They just it was, I don't know, I feel like it was such a good book, and there were so many twists and turns. I wish the ending was a little bit more definitive, but it's kind of one of those endings that it kind of ends, but it doesn't. I don't know. I liked it, and I'm glad it's over. I'm glad they decided to finish it, but I could have waited. I think it could have continued and done some other fun stuff, but I see why they did it. But 3 out of 5 unicorn horns, unfortunately, it was not the best one out of all of them. Runaways, number 23. I love Runaways. They've been doing so good. It delves into more of the relationship. Caroline wants to be a superhero. It delves into more of the Jace and Gert's storyline, how they're kind of having closure about breaking up, and then Victor and the Doombot are kind of like, they come back, and how they're kind of getting back to being a character or more normal. I just really like this one. It's fun. It's not quite a superhero book like I want, but it's like a 90210 with superheroes, which is kind of still fun. Like, they do well enough to make it interesting. I do wish there was more action, and they just got off a little bit of the action when they fought the Grimoires, and I want more of that. Like, I wish they had a villain or some kind of way that they're going, but unfortunately they don't yet. So I hope they continue that. Powers of X. I feel like Powers of X and House of X, I think I'm going to have to wait till the very end to kind of read them all together. But I can see the pieces falling into place. I just don't feel like they're fitting correctly quite yet until they'll finish the end of the story. This was like they're setting everything up, and they're kind of getting to the point where I'm curious to see where they're going. So it keeps feeding me a little bit of things and a little bit here and there, but nothing too crazy. But I'm waiting for the end to see how that's going to go before I judge it. But this particular issue is kind of interesting. I do like the characters they introduced that are from the future or from an alternate timeline-ish kind of thing. I want to see more of them, and I'm curious to see how they're going to fit into everything. So I'm on board, but I'm a huge X person anyway, so my opinion probably sucks at X books. But I really enjoyed it. I like the new characters. 4 out of 5 unicorn horns. I'm really hoping that they do well and they knock this out of the park. Welling Blade number 3. They did. They furthered it along. They're gonna. So not only is the guy that's impersonating the assassin he's gonna have to fight a regular assassin that she's like got this giant warhammer, and they fight, and she realizes that he's not the guy that he's not the normal assassin. So their plans kind of go into crap, and so they're hopefully they'll survive this. But it's a fun book. It's an interesting book. Like I like the premise. It's kind of fun, and it's different to see this little bit different twist on things. And so and the art's kind of fun, and the big giant characters are really neat. And the weapons are kind of cool. So I'm curious to see where they're gonna go with this. So I'll probably keep reading it. So 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. It's still interesting. Glow number 4. They wrapped up the storyline with them and the other female wrestler group, the Star something or others, but they are Prima Stars, Star Primas, and they are going to they're going to have their big battle. It does a little bit more of girl power, but they talk about I don't know. It's like drama in comic book form, but I really wish they would, I don't know, do the campiness more of the show, but they get a little more serious than I think would be than I want. I kind of want to see the silly fights. I think it would be fun to see the fights more, but I really like the little cartoony style they had on this one. I like the little drama they have in this one, and it's just a fun read. So if you're a fan of the show, you would like this book. It's very similar to the show, like the dramedy and the kind of feel to it is definitely like the show. But I would like a little more camp and a little bit more of the wrestling side, but it is what it is. So that's all I read for last week. It was actually a lot, and I got a whole stack of physical comic books that I got to read. But that will have to wait at some point. So, I appreciate you taking this ride down the rabbit hole of comic books with me. And I will do another show with James and then post them later on. And I really hope you get a chance to like, share, and subscribe. Let the world know. Because I would love to have a bigger audience and have a conversation. If you can, comment if there's a book that I'm not reading that maybe you think would be really interesting or you would like to hear somebody else's opinion about. That's the reason I started this show. So until then, though, I hope your pull list is full. Bye!